Cowboy Jim. Oh, what a joy, eh? My goodness, we are front and center in the world news. You can tell that. I just turn Fox News on in the States anytime and hear a diatribe about how terrible. Oh, not the truckers. No, not the truckers. Not the Canadian people. But how terrible our blackface prime minister is. And oh, gee, I just heard from, I heard a guy who is a law professor down there in the States somewhere. And people say, well, what does, states like, what does that have to do with Canada? Well, it actually has everything to do with Canada because the perception of what the Canadian truckers are doing. The law professor just said Trudeau has vilified the truckers, and all they want is a voice. And with the War Measures Act, of course, they don't call it that because it sounds a bit harsh. They call it Emergencies Act. Well, usually an emergency is a quick happening thing. Well, this has been about 3 weeks now, and it's just growing, children. It's growing. And the law professor down there, oh shoot, I forgot. Listen, subscribe if you feel up to it. It's just punching the little silly button YouTube. They tell me what I can do and what I can say and what I should say. And they would like to see, don't get angry with YouTube. I mean, geez, I kind of like the vanity of seeing people subscribing as well. Anyways, okay, let's get back to it. Oh, positively refreshing to hear a law professor down in the States talk about Trudeau being such an idiot. And, well, actually didn't use those words. I ad-lib a little because I can, because that's what I think he used. But nonetheless, the law professor was saying that because Trudeau has vilified the truckers, he said Trudeau will march with Black Lives Matter. Geez, every life matters. And he says that's hardly a peace-loving group. He said also, it was very interesting, he said, Trudeau, if this were 20, 30, 40 years ago, Trudeau would have arrested Martin Luther King. And he probably would have. I mean, because Martin Luther King, he stood for righteousness. He stood for equality. He stood for freedom of speech, freedom of access to education, equal. He stood for so much. And this guy is saying the Canadian Prime Minister would put him in jail and would try to shut down what really was a peaceful movement for freedom, because that's what ours is too. It's a peaceful movement hoping to gain freedom of choice. Doesn't matter about COVID, children. You have your shots, you don't. That's between you and your doctor and all that sort of stuff. That's not what this is about. It's not about shots. I mean, shoot, you want to get a job in the North, you have to have your shots. I have my shots, and I'm not doing any boosters. Hey, screw that. Not worth it. And to hear the world speak of Justin Trudeau and saying he is overreaching everything that is proper, good, and decent. The War Measures Act, you can call it Emergencies Act if you want, pretty it up, make it sound a little less offensive. But it started out as being the War Measures Act, and it was offensive because it was an offense to stand against tyranny, anarchy, and to stand against people who wanted to take our freedom away. Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. Oh, yeah. Trudeau should really stand up. Stand up. You don't want anyone to take someone's freedom away. You don't want. Oh, this professor, he is so funny. Gee. Oh, Trudeau is seizing millions and millions and millions of dollars from people who have donated to the Canadian Freedom Convoy. Well, that irritates the hell out of the truckers, of course. Last I heard, quite a few people were getting around Trudeau and the mayor down there in Ottawa. Jeez. They were just handing people money, saying, here, buy fuel. Here, buy food for your kids. Here. This isn't a handout. This is a hand up. There's a difference, children. Okay, there's a difference. A hand out or a hand up. Big difference. I try to help as many people as I can afford to. It's a tribute to my friends on the street. Very rarely will they ever ask you for a handout. Sometimes they'll kind of ask you for a hand up. So, Trudeau, in his narcissism and in his, I'm going to use the word plurality, but I'm not sure that it applies, but it may. I'm not sure. I wished I had my Webster's dictionary. I haven't seen one of those for a long time, but I bet I could Google it. Plurality. That's like double-sided. You represent whatever side you happen to have exposed to the public at the time. Plurality. I'm not sure. Anyone want to send me a comment on that? I'd appreciate it. I really want to learn. I really have a lot to learn. So, Trudeau stepping beyond his position and place. But we kind of knew that. Law professor said he's validating what the truckers have been saying all along. He's actually inciting the average Canadian to oppose Trudeau and to support the truckers. I believe that's true. I really do. From Coots, sitting down in Coots at the protest and looking around and watching around and talking to some RCMP officers. There are some good RCMP officers. There are some that I wouldn't invite home to dinner, okay? I just want you to know that. Because there are good and there are bad and everything. There are people who suffer from insecurities and don't know how to present themselves in a manner. Geez, this is maybe striking too close to home. Not knowing how to present themselves to others in order to be accepted. Geez. Maybe rolling a few layers of onion back. I would rather not. But we all deal with our own idiosyncrasies, I suppose. We try in the best of our ability to represent fairly all those who are downtrodden. And it's very hard. It's very hard for a person who feels downtrodden, who happens to have a politician standing on their chest, while they themselves are flat on the ground. Somewhat, shall we say, difficult to get up. But nonetheless, it's not impossible. So listen, we have a little bit of a challenge ahead of us. Truckers, be nice, be polite, be Canadian. World. The world is watching. The world is watching the weakest Prime Minister we have ever had in the history of Canada, at least as far as I can remember. And we're watching, oh geez, the word despot, it jumps into my head there. Geez, there's a fair bit of vacuous room up there, but despot, yes, dictator. Yes, I suppose that is what Trudeau is, a wannabe despot. I can spell it. I will check the meaning. Dictator. He wants to take absolute control over everyone's life. It's not to do with COVID, children. It's to do with government overreach. It's to do with the government implementing the War Measures Act, whatever it's called, and exerting influence over what would be called average Canadians. I've never really liked to be considered average. I always thought I would shoot for a little higher than that, but perhaps that's just all right too. Average Canadian. I'm going to ponder that one for a little bit. So, Trudeau, what color of face do you have on today, son? The law professor says Trudeau will march with Black Lives Matter. They're not really known as a peace-loving group. Our truckers have been infiltrated a little bit by some people who have an agenda that is not akin to that which, shall we say, an average Canadian would want. We want peace. We're not pacifists, okay? Average Canadian is kind of like a Mennonite who is considered a pacifist until there's a baseball game or a hockey game, and then you notice they're not really pacifists. They are enthusiasts, flat out, hard as they can go, fighting for a cause. Well, we're not fighting because that's considered impolite, and we're not pacifist either. But anyways, we are experiencing the joy of being before the world, a world of people who are looking at Justin Trudeau and saying, boy, I hope you don't holiday in our country. Boy. I always believed that Pierre Elliott Trudeau was one of the most despised men in Canada, but that really wasn't true because there were an awful lot of Liberals who Trudeau said you could do anything to an average Canadian, and 3 months later they'd re-elect you. Well, I think we're a little deeper than that now, given our opportunity for not unbiased news. But if you're watching Fox News, it's pretty unbiased. A slight cant towards the Conservatives, but nonetheless. At least in my opinion, they're biased if they have any, and it's in the right direction. So, Canada, you pray for our truckers. You pray for the Canadian people who have decided enough is enough. I would not by necessity recommend wasting too much time praying for Trudeau. His game plan probably is going to become more revealed as time goes by, and his baseness, corruption, is, I think, going to become more known, more widespreadly known, and people around the world. Well, it's kind of a little optimistic of me to think that perhaps something I could say might be heard around the world, but nonetheless, there's nothing wrong with dreaming, delusional though it may be. People around the world, you watch what we Canadians say, and you watch what we Canadians do. Invariably, you will find it very similar. We're not politicians. With politicians, that'll be different. They say whatever may take to get them reelected. But nonetheless, 14 minutes, hey, that's not bad. Listen, God bless Canada. God bless the Canadian citizens. God bless the truckers. God have mercy on the politicians who say one thing one moment and another thing another moment in order to get reelected. God, let our words be consistent, be steady, be the same. Sunday, Monday, 7 days a week. Don't get blown around by the wind, children. We have strong winds out here in Alberta. Don't let that get you off track. God bless. You all have a good day. And, pray for Canada. Trudeau and his ilk, they're out to get Canada. They're out to take over Canada. I'm not kidding when I say Trudeau wants to become a dictator. He does. In his arrogance, he believes he deserves that. I thank God that we're a peace-loving people up here who know enough about God to know we have to honor him respectfully. And you can believe in him, in God or not, it doesn't matter. It's your choice. It's up to you. But one thing I would encourage you to do, no matter your belief systems, believe in each other. Believe in Canada. God bless Canada. And God bless the United States of America, who are standing with us Canadians. We only really want peace-loving people up here to become part of our convoy, okay? No terrorist, okay? Okay. The lawyer down there, he said Trudeau would have put Martin Luther King in jail and would gladly have stopped the push in the States for freedom. Remember that. You remember Trudeau? Don't forget that fatherless child. Okay? Okay? Remember this. We vote. Okay? And we don't fight. Unless it's in self-defense. It better be in self-defense. Because you're going to get painted. Freedom Convoy people, you do anything that's even remotely close to looking like it's wrong, and that's all you're going to hear on the news, that you are wrong. You don't have to be wrong. You must needs love peace and decency and honor and respect, and you stand for what's right. Okay? I'm not taking my hat off. This is definitely a bad hair day. But I would take my hat off to our Canadian Freedom Convoy and the people across Canada who stand with them. Because you must needs have the right of freedom of choice. It has nothing to do with shots. COVID, that's all process A. It has to do with you walking in the freedom that our ancestors fought, bled, and died for. Okay? God bless you. God bless you. God bless.